Hi, I'm Ranger Patrick. Did you know that most of prairie life occurs underneath your feet? So grab a shovel and let's explore soil and what it means for the prairie.
You probably know soil by its more common name, dirt. But soil is so much more than a dirty mess. In fact, soil is a special mixture of different ingredients. Let's learn the secret recipe for soil. First, we need minerals, or rocks. These make up nearly half of our recipe at about 45%. Wait, is soil really made of rocks? Yes. Big rocks break down over time, eventually becoming smaller and smaller pieces until they're small and numerous enough to become soil. After rocks, we need about 20 to 30% air and another 20 to 30% water. Think of our soil rocks like circles. When we pack them together, they leave little pockets of air. The bigger the circles, the bigger the air pockets. The size of those pockets also change how fast water moves through the soil, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Last on our ingredient list, organic matter, or compost, at about 5%. You can think of compost as living stuff that's no longer living. Leaves are a good example. When they die and fall from our trees, they don't just disappear, they slowly break down into tiny pieces that get mixed in with our soil. Once we've mixed all our ingredients, we have our soil recipe. I should say, it takes a long time to make soil, hundreds of years for just a small amount. Think of it like baking a cake for ages. Speaking of which, soil is a little like cake. There are different kinds. Remember our first ingredient, rocks and minerals? What they're made of and how big they are can make a big difference in what kind of soil we get. Our soil comes in three types: sand, silt, and clay. Sand is what we find at the beach. It's made of the biggest pieces of rock. It feels gritty and doesn't stick together easily. Next, silt. Silt has smaller rock pieces than sand. It feels smoother and is a little stickier. I found this silt along a riverbank. And last but not least, clay. Clay has the smallest rock pieces. They're so small, it feels dusty when rubbed between your fingers. And my favorite part of clay, when it's wet, it's very sticky, so much that you can mold it into shapes. Most soils have a mixture of all three, so it isn't always easy to tell the difference. But one fun way to check is to use water. In these beakers, I have examples of sand, silt, and clay soil. Watch what happens when I pour water over each. Which do you think it will move through the fastest? If you guess sand, that's right. Since sand is made of the biggest pieces, it also has the largest air pockets. These create little tunnels the water can quickly move through. Clay, on the other hand, is tiny with very small pockets. The water moves through very slowly and gets held in place. There's a way you can try this without beakers too, called the ribbon test. So ready to test your soil?
Here's what you'll need: a shovel or something to dig with, something to place your dirt on, and water. I'm using a spray bottle, but you could use anything. Once you're ready, head outside and see if you can find a spot with some soil. Make sure you ask if it's okay first before you dig. I found this nice spot outside. Use your shovel to take up a sample. You don't need a very big piece. There. Now let's head inside and see what our soil has.
Once you have your soil sample, try examining it. How does it feel? Is it gritty, like sand, dusty, like clay, or somewhere in between, like silt? Try breaking it apart. Did you find anything surprising? I found little pieces of plant inside my clumps. That's an example of compost. Once you've examined your soil, it's time for our ribbon test. Add a small amount of water, just enough to roll your soil into a ball. If it's hard to roll and your ball keeps falling apart, your soil is mostly sand. However, if your ball stays together, try pinching it between your thumb and pointer finger. As you pinch, gently push up and your soil should start to make a ribbon. If your ribbon quickly falls apart, your soil is mostly silt. If you can make a very long ribbon, your soil is mostly clay. So what kind of soil do you think I have? Judging from my ribbon, I think I have clay soil with some silt. How does that compare to your soil? Could you make a ribbon? You might be wondering, what does it matter if my soil is sand, silt, or clay? Aside from human impacts like what we can grow or build, soil type is also important to plants and animals. For many, soil is habitat, and the right type of soil can mean the right place to call home. Do you have dry, sandy soil like these ants could live in? A moist silt that this toad could burrow into? Or maybe a mixture of sand, silt, and clay like this swallow nest? Either way, there's a lot more to the soil world underneath your feet.